Welcome to Five Film. Today we will explain the 2017 action movie Thor Ragnarok. Warning, this video contains spoilers. Enjoy! About 2 years have passed after the events of Avengers Age of Ultron when the story begins. Thor is hanging in chains over a fire pit after failing to get the Infinity Stones and being abandoned by Jane. He is then brought before the terrifying fire monster Surtur. Surtur thinks he must trigger Ragnarok, the fall of Asgard. When Surtur informs Thor that Odin is not present in Asgard, he uses Mjolnir to flee and kill Surtur while retaining the demon's power source, his crown or skull. Thor leaves Surtur's skull in the vault when he returns to Asgard, but when he does, he discovers that Heimdall has been replaced as the Bifrost Bridge sentry by the inexperienced Scourge, who says that Odin accused Heimdall of betraying him. After that, Heimdall escaped, and it is unclear where he is now. When Thor arrives in Asgard, he notices a huge statue of Loki and Odin relaxing and watching a performance commemorating Loki's great sacrifice while battling the Dark Elves. When Loki assumed the role of Odin before the conclusion of Thor: The Dark World, Thor soon forced him to shed the impersonation and demanded to know what had happened to Odin. Loki had put Odin under a spell and abandoned him in a retirement community in New York City. It is discovered. When they arrive, it has already begun to be destroyed. Loki is abruptly drawn through a dimensional opening in the pavement before they can decide how to proceed, leaving them a card with the address 177A Bleecker Street. Doctor Strange, the mysterious protector of Earth, meets Thor there and offers to assist him to locate Odin in exchange for Asgardians leaving Earth. Thor agrees, and Doctor Strange discovers that Odin is in Norway after doing the study. The Doctor then frees Loki from his never-ending fall when Loki attempts to assault a frustrated Strange. The Doctor sends both of them through a different portal without ceremony. After shaking off Loki's influence, they discover Odin in Norway, seated next to a picturesque rock. He confesses that Ragnarok is drawing nigh and that he is dying. Thor is certain that by destroying Surtur, he stopped Ragnarok. Hela, the goddess of death and the one who would conquer Asgard from Odin's son, is mentioned by Odin as his real firstborn child. Odin informs Thor and Loki that their sister was shut away after being absorbed by the evil. Odin is the only thing keeping her imprisonment going. Before passing away and vanishing, he expresses regret to Thor for failing him. As soon as he leaves, Hela escapes from her cell and strikes up a short conversations with the two. Thor flings Mjolnir in her directions since he realizes that she won't be persuaded, but the goddess easily catches it and destroys the formerly unbreakable weapon. When Loki realizes that they have little hope of survival, he requests to be sent back to Asgard through the Bifrost. However, Hela also enters the portal, drives Loki and Thor out of it at various places, and then uses the portal to go to Asgard. As soon as she arrives at the Bifrost Bridge, she kills Volstagg and Fandral before enlisting the aid of a horrified Scourge. When she eliminates Hogun and the whole palace guard by herself, she then departs for Asgard. Thor is dropped down by the portal on Sakaar, a planet that seemed to be made up solely of enormous rubbish mounds that are supplied by enormous portals in the sky. Several scavengers assault him. Now, without a weapon, he is swiftly defeated until the heart-drinking bounty hunter Valkyrie scares his assailants away. The Grandmaster, who is ecstatic with his newest acquisitions, decides to pit him against his champion fighter when she searches Thor and uses a little shocking device to calm him down. Thor discovers that Loki is also there and has been for weeks. During his time, Loki has gained the Grandmaster's favor. Thor is imprisoned in the dungeons, where he encounters the rock monster Kork, who says that everyone who has faced the champion has been slain out. Fear of losing his position, Loki plays along, pretending he doesn't care about his brother. The fresco above the throne, which depicts Odin and the royal family as exercising benevolent rule over their realm and the universe, is torn down by Hela as she enters the throne room of Asgard, revealing the darker history of the realm in which Odin and Hela overcame the 9 realms before Hela was exiled by her father. Then, Hela descends to Asgard's vaults, where he uses Asgard's eternal flame to resurrect Fenris, her gigantic wolf, and her whole army. She then makes an effort to establish a gateway and seize control of all the worlds, but Heimdall who has been hidden in the hills, has stolen the Bifrost sword and is now protecting and fleeing Asgardian citizens. The Incredible Hulk is introduced as the champion, and Thor is brought to the arena to compete against him. When Thor recognizes an old colleague, the Hulk attacks him. Thor wins the advantage as the two fight it out in the area. He attempts to use Natasha Romanoff's soothing method to get Bruce Banner to change back into himself, but it doesn't work, and Hulk beats him up. Thor eventually lets go of his reserve and starts to engage in combat. At one point, a vision of Odin causes him to summon uncontrolled lightning, but just as he is ready to triumph, the Grandmaster knocks Thor to the ground because he doesn't want to see the crowd's favorite lose. Thor raises his hand in protections as the Hulk flies into the air to smash him before everything goes dark. Hela gathers the last of the inhabitants of Asgard and wants to know where the Bifrost sword is. Hela orders Scourge to execute a random individual if no one steps forward. Scourge hesitates but is still going to murder when someone steps forward and tells him where Heimdall is. Later, Thor awakens in the Hulk's room, where numerous beautiful ladies are pampering him. Thor learns from Hulk that he hasn't changed back into Banner since leaving Earth 2 years ago when they converse privately. The Hulk notes that the Quinjet he took off from Earth is still intact and may be utilized as a means of escape. Additionally, he finds out that Valkyrie is an Asgardian and was a member of an elite all-female squad that was sent up against Hela during her last attack, but they were all fatally wounded. She initially refuses to assist, despite Thor's best efforts to persuade her. Even though the Hulk is content with his existence and wants to remain, he does assist Thor in obtaining the key for his electronic constraint. Thor pickpockets Valkyrie for the key and removes the shocker from his neck. Thor makes his way to the Quinjet after escaping from the Hulk's apartment, but Hulk is after him and breaks the Quinjet in two. The Hulk then changes back into Bruce Banner as Thor plays Black Widow's last message to him. Thor recounts what has occurred to Banner, whose final recollections are of Sokovia during Ultron's assault. Unable to believe the Hulk was in charge for 2 years, Banner is reluctant to morph once again for fear of becoming the Hulk permanently. When Valkyrie and Loki finally meet, they get into a quick battle, and once Loki discovers where Valkyrie is formed, he uses his abilities to make her recall her previous run-in with Hela. After having a change of heart, Valkyrie chooses to assist Thor in getting back to Asgard, and she expresses her goodwill by beating and tying Loki up. Following their reunion, Thor and Loki set out to steal a spacecraft, but Loki makes an effort to turn on Thor to the Grandmaster. Thor placed this stunning object on Loki's back because he anticipates him making such a move. Thor says he had thought Loki would at least demonstrate some ability for development and even start to change for the better, but now he realizes the trickster Loki will always remain. The control is then placed just out of reach when he leaves the shocking gadget on. The Grandmaster's coalition ship is taken by Thor, Banner, and Valkyrie, who then escapes his grasp by using the Devil's Anus, another gateway. Thor arrives in Asgard just as Hela is ready to exterminate the people who had tried to flee via the Bifrost Bridge. They fight viciously, but Thor is still defeated and loses an eye. In a vision of Odin, who explains to his son that the hammer just channeled his energies, Thor, who feels helpless without his hammer, is reminded that he is the god of thunder. Additionally, Odin explains to him that Asgard is made up of its inhabitants, who may re-establish their civilizations and culture everywhere. Thor releases a powerful lightning bolt that repels Hela after discovering the full extent of his powers. Loki joins forces with Korg and other fleeing warriors and acquire a spacecraft that he uses to eject the Asgardians, while Valkyrie and Heimdall struggle to fend off Hela's troops. To combat Fenris, Banner also turned back into the Hulk. Scourge sacrifices himself to allow the ship to escape since he feels bad about having sided with Hela. Thor joins forces with Valkyrie and Loki, knowing that Hela would soon return since she is only becoming stronger thanks to the might of Asgard. Thor sends Loki to the vaults to toss Surtur's skull into the eternal flame, after abruptly realizing that he cannot halt Ragnarok and must instead cause it to destroy Hela. Following Surtur's resurrections and subsequent rampage over the realm, Loki does as instructed and flees. Although Hela launches an assault, it is of little value since Surtur is too strong and dispatches her with his sword. Just before Asgard is fully destroyed, Thor flees with Loki, Hulk, Heimdall, Valkyrie, and the remaining citizens or prisoners. Thor is saddened by the loss of his home, but he understands that it was essential to save his people from extinction. Finally, fulfilling his destiny, he sits in the captain's chair on the bridge and issues the order to land back on Earth.